On behalf of my delightful colleagues at the Institute for Social Concerns, welcome to the annual Bernie Clark Lecture. I am Suzanne Shanahan, and I direct the Institute for Social Concerns. For those unfamiliar with the Institute, we are Notre Dame's scholarly home for justice. At the Institute, the pursuit of justice is a fundamental expression of the university's Catholic mission. Rooted in Catholic social tradition, the Institute's work is animated by the desire to respond to the signs of the times with rigor, humility, and courage. Each year, this lecture honors Father Bernie Clark by bringing to campus an exemplar from any field who is committed to justice and the common good, someone whose life reflects a profound compassion and care for humanity. To introduce today's Bernie Clark lecture, we have Dr. Donald Zimmer. Donnie is a board-certified emergency medicine physician in South Bend. He is an assistant clinical professor of emergency medicine at the University of Indiana School of Medicine. He is co-director of medical education for the Beacon Health System. He graduated from the University of Notre Dame and is a very, very, very proud PLS major, Program in Liberal Studies, where he graduated in 2004. For the Institute, his claim to fame is that as an undergraduate, he participated in one of our summer programs in Honduras. Donnie has served as a special deputy for the St. Joseph County Sheriff's Department as the medical doctor on their SWAT team. Wow, did that for 10 years. He's still here. Thank you, Donnie. Donnie is also a parishioner at the St. Joseph Church and serves on their advisory board for the St. Luke's Foundation for Haiti. Thank you, Donnie.
Welcome to the University of Notre Dame. You are not here to be comfortable. Those are the words of Father Monk Malloy at the Welcome Mass in 2000, when I was a wide-eyed freshman sitting in the jack, and what I thought he meant was that organic chemistry was going to be really, really hard. But I didn't really understand what he exactly meant till a few weeks later, when I was sitting in my philosophy class with Professor Ramsey, and he started out with what seemed like a very honest, simple, straightforward question. He said, suppose you were on your way to class today and you saw a child drowning in the lake. What should you do? You should help, we all replied. But then he asked, what if the child was not right in front of you? What if the child was somewhere else in the world? But for the small sacrifice of ruining a pair of shoes or your backpack, maybe your laptop, and a little bit of time, you could still save that child. Why was that question suddenly so much harder for us to answer? I remember being so struck by that line of questioning that I wanted to know whether the premises could be true. Could you really save someone's life for such a small personal sacrifice? And that question led me to the Institute for Social Concerns and ultimately to my International Summer Service Learning Program in Honduras, in San Pedro Sula, and later to Kenya and Haiti. And what I have found is that, yes, the premise is true. The argument is sound. The question then becomes, what's next? Our speaker tonight, Dr. Tom Catena, has spent his life living the answer. Dr. Catena is a graduate of Brown University and Duke Medical School, a former U.S. Navy flight surgeon, and today the only permanent physician serving more than 1 million people in the remote and war-torn Nuba Mountains of Sudan. As medical director of the Mother of Mercy Hospital, he provides care for thousands each year, from trauma and infectious disease to childbirth and surgery, often under bombardment and with limited electricity, supplies, and staff. For his work, he has been recognized with the Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity, the Catholic Doctor of the Year Award, and numerous honors for humanitarian service. But beyond the accolades, his life embodies what it means to embrace discomfort for the sake of others, the very challenge that Father Malloy offered to all of us. We would like to share a brief video to provide some context for Dr. Tom's work.
I've chosen to live in Africa. I like that idea of staying in one place and becoming part of the community. So this is the reality of life here. I love the Nuba people. If I left, some people would die. So I'm in it. I'm all in.
Dr. Tom, he's the gynecologist, the physician, the surgeon, he's everything.
And he does that 365 days a year. That's really the issue that makes him remarkable.
And this is Rita. Rita has a pediatric tumor of the kidneys. The chances of a really good outcome are not great.
At Brown University, Tom Catena was an all-Ivy nose guard and an All-American.
Football is a metaphor. A lot of medical work is intensity and perseverance.
Catena sacks him for a safety.
I decided to go into medicine. Before you know it, you end up in the mountains of Sudan. But I do miss the family. Here's everybody. How's it going?
So good.
Both my mom and dad are getting older. I think what I miss is a sense of closeness. Rita is the Sudan Army attacked their area, so I can't trace her now. I'm hoping one day she'll show up and she'll be doing fine, but I don't know. Keep in mind that any airplane overhead is going to bomb somewhere. Can you imagine what effects this has on this generation of children?
The noise they make when they are afraid. I wish I didn't know that. I think that's a plane, so I think we have to move now. Quick, quick.
Here it comes. Down, down. You feel like a hunted animal.
If anything happens to Tom, who's going to replace him? From where he came, I don't know. I call it a miracle.
We cannot run and leave our patients.
The lives of people here matter as much as anywhere in the world. We can't lose sight of that, or else we lose our humanity.
Please join me in welcoming a true witness to faith, courage, and service, Dr. Tom Catena, and our director at the Institute for Social Concerns, Suzanne Shanahan.
Okay, so let's jump in. We want to make sure there is plenty of time for conversation and for you all to start thinking of those questions you want to ask. So we'll tee up a bit of conversation and then we'll look forward to you all jumping in. So let's talk about Tom Catena back at Brown. Could you ever imagine yourself at that time being where you are now? How did you begin this journey? And do you see seeds of it as an undergraduate? We have lots of students in this room who are aspiring physicians. Was this a lifelong dream to be a physician and to do this kind of work, or was this more a meandering journey for you?
Yeah, very, very meandering. You know, when I was in college, actually, my teammate Chucky K is here. It's really a surprise. You know, he brought me this really show that helmet. That's really cool. Not quite Notre Dame, but Brown football. All right. So when I was an undergraduate, I studied engineering. My goal in high school, you know, I love the sciences. I'm like, man, I'm so sick of school. I want to go to college, do my 4 years, get out, and start making a bunch of money. That was my idea. So what did I do? I went to school like for the rest of my life and don't make anything. So it didn't quite work out as I had planned as a high school senior. You know, problem is I got to college and studied engineering. I loved it. It was great, learning a lot. And I kind of fell in with this group of evangelical Christians. I'm a cradle Catholic, grew up in the faith, and still am very much a practicing Catholic. And they kind of planted that seed of being a missionary. I didn't quite know what it meant, but just a possibility of a normal Joe being a missionary. And I had that idea, and then I took that idea of doing mission work, and through a series of events, I thought that medicine would be a much better fit. So I graduated college, got a great job offer as an engineer with GE and their nuclear sub program, really great paying job, and turned it down to go back to school 5 more years, a lot of pain and suffering, a lot of money, and went to medicine. And it took a long time. I had to go to school. I had to do. I got a Navy scholarship to finance school, 5 years in the Navy, time as a resident. So it was pretty much 14, 15 years from the time I said, okay, I'd like to be a missionary, till time was time to make a decision to do that kind of work.
So, if you go back to that year you were in Kenya before you transitioned to the Nuba Mountains, what was the conversation with your family like? Clearly very close to your family. How do you explain, "Oh, I'm going to stay, and in fact, I'm going someplace that is in fact more fraught." So, how do you call them up and say, "Guess what?"
Well, luckily there's no phone service, so I didn't have to call anybody. It was a letter, like handwritten letter. So by the time they responded, hey, it's too late. I'm already killing myself. I was in Kenya, and I was doing my first mission, right? So I team up with Catholic Medical Mission Board and go to Kenya. And I said, okay, I'm going to go there for 1 year. I'll get this mission business out of my system. I'll come back to the U.S., hang up my shingle, and start working as a doctor. So I get to Kenya, and I went to the Mutomo Hospital, which was run by Irish Mercy Sisters, and Sister Bridget was the matron. So matron is the word they use for the head nurse. And as a Catholic school, you've seen Irish sisters before. You cannot disappoint the sister, right? So you out there, Sister Bridget is like, okay, Tom, great. We're here for 2 years. That's wonderful. I said, I thought I was here for a year. I couldn't let sister down. So I said, okay, sign me up for 2 years. I'll do it. That became 2.5, 3. And when I was there in Kenya, I kept hearing about Sudan. And Kenya was great. I learned a ton. There was a great need, but people kept coming. I kept meeting people coming from Sudan, and they were saying, "Hey, if you think Kenya's a challenge, if you think there's a need here, you should see what it's like in Sudan. They've been in civil war for 20 years. Everything's been decimated. They really, really need the help of doctors." And being a glutton for punishment and somebody that really wanted to go where my limited services were needed, I thought that's the place I want to go to. I'm looking for browner pastures, and I found them in Sudan. My family, my family's kinda used to me by this point. They know I'm totally nuts, and my family's great. I mean, I'm so thankful to God that I was born into this family. We never think about this thing, like, "Why was I born in this family?" My wife grew up in Nuba Mountains. Why was she born in that family? It's amazing. But I was born in a family that supported me with everything I did, including, we just finished paying for college. Now you wanna go to medical school? Are you nuts? Go and get a job, they coulda said that, and I would've done it, honor your father and mother, right? But if my folks said, "You need to do that," I said, "I don't just want my parents." They were totally cool with it. Said, "Well, Tom, that's what you wanna do. Okay. Then, I wanna go to Sudan, there's problems there. Okay, if God is calling you there, why don't you follow that? Follow the call of God." It was awesome. Even in the worst times in Sudan when the hospital was bombed, my parents never never got a message to me, "Tom, is too much now. You gotta come back. We're worried about you." And they were worried. They were really, really worried that I was gonna be killed. My mom prayed every night, prayed for protection. I'm here.
So, in your family, clearly faith has been important, but do you have siblings who've pursued similar paths, or do you think of yourself as an outlier within the family?
Yeah, I'm a bit of an outlier. My oldest brother, he just retired. He was a hospital administrator for many years, and he's kind of money bags in the family, right? He was into all that stuff. He's got fancy cars and all that. So we look a bit similar. He's my older brother, but looks like he's about 20 years old. He's like me. He's got a bundle of energy, but we're quite different. There's a lot of variety within the family. I've got one brother who's a priest. My younger brother is a Catholic priest in our local diocese. So we're probably the most similar, my brother Paul and I. He actually came out and married us. Came to Nuba, heavy fighting nearby. And he comes out to the mountains and marries us. So he's been a great supporter.
So you've been in the Nuba Mountains, what, 17 years?
17 and a half years, right?
So you arrived very much as an outsider,
Mhm.
but you're married, you have two children, you're now very embedded in the community. Does the work and life feel different now that you're fully a part of the community? Or do you still think of yourself as someone from the outside? How do you navigate that inside to outsideness
Right.
at this point?
Yeah, somebody said this thing that they used ABC. So well, it's kind of confusing, but A is like you're this culture, C is you're the culture where you're going to, and B is kind of a hybrid, and you're always going to be in that B. I'm not an American anymore. Like I can't do anything here. I can't function. Like Scott has taken me around. We started our journey in Boston. I'd still be there if it wasn't for Scott. I can't I don't have the Uber app. I don't know how to get around. I can't book a flight. I just can't function. And yet I'll never fully be a Nuba. I'll never have grown up in that environment, grown up with that fear of growing up in a war. My wife had childhood friends die of starvation. Like, how many of us can say that? Hopefully, none of us. I sure as heck didn't. So, no matter how long I stay there, I'll never be fully inculcated in that culture. And yet, I can never come back to to America and be like I was before. I'm totally changed from that. So I'm in the middle. I'm B. Hopefully, hopefully I'm still an A doctor, A plus doctor, but I'm a B human being. I don't know.
That's great.
Mm.
Can you talk a little bit about your faith? You described sort of falling in with this evangelical crowd, the interest in being a missionary. How does your faith sustain you through this extraordinary work?
Right. So, like I said, I grew up in the Catholic faith and got the idea about doing mission work from these evangelicals. And for sure, if I were not a practicing Catholic, I would not still be there. There is absolutely no way you can stay in that job, do it day in and day out, if you're not a person of faith. I don't think it's possible. I can't. Maybe somebody else could, not me. It's too difficult, and it's not the physical difficulty. It's the whatever comes to the door. And Donnie's a doc. He knows you're an ER doc, right, Donnie? So imagine everything that hits your ER. It's like, okay, man, you're hit. Guy shot in the belly, and you got to take him to the theater. Or operating room. He's got malaria. You got to take care of that. So there's no way you can know everything. So we're always at the edge of our knowledge. It's very intimidating. It's frightening. More than that, probably the worst thing is just the psychological trauma of having people die on you, people you've taken care of, people you've gotten to know and love die on you a lot. Not that we're bad, we're bad doctors, but they just die, and it's traumatic. I think without that Christian hope that there's something else beyond this world, there's no way I can stick it out. I couldn't do it. It's too much. There are other things you can do that are just not so difficult mentally and spiritually. Without that, I can say this is Notre Dame, right? I can talk this way. No one's gonna like, no one's gonna throw me out or cancel me. Like I can talk about these things. So I think Chuck's laughing. Chuck went to Brown with me, so we know Brown they would throw me out. All right. Yeah, right.
No, very welcome here. So, do you think you could describe a typical day? Like, understanding that there is no typical day, but what does a day
Mm.
look like for you?
So yeah, the days are like I said this group before. Days are extremely long. Every day is like the expression is the only easy day was yesterday, right? So the days are incredibly long. Weeks and months are very very short. Time just flies by there. So as you get up around 5:30, I I got a little. I was staying with my wife. We have a little two-room kind of dwelling, and we sleep with our youngest boy, Vinny. So we sit in the same bed, two little metal beds stuck together with a mosquito net over top. Get up around 5:30, get out of bed, get Vinny up. He goes out, does his morning constitution, does his little pee and his little poo, and that's kind of the morning highlight. Get him up, then get down to the hospital about 6:45, and I try to get to the. We have a chapel right in the middle of the hospital. I know you guys. I heard today every dorm's got a chapel, so that's really wonderful. We have a chapel. We just built it a few years ago. I thought we were a Catholic mission hospital. There's no chapel. It's terrible. So we built it. Every morning, 7 o'clock, I try to find myself in that chapel and say morning rosary, say morning prayers, get ready really spiritually to get through the battles of that day. 7:30, a parish priest comes. He's our hospital chaplain, has morning mass every day from 7:30 to 8. We come out of there, start the ward rounds, and it's a 485 bed hospital. We don't see every single patient every day, but we'll get through 300 to 400 patients on that morning ward round. And we go from the maternity ward to the female medical surgical ward to the male ward to the children's ward to the ICU ward. In between seeing those patients, we're seeing emergencies. Somebody's bleeding, somebody's a C-section, somebody's coming down from the TB leprosy ward who needs treatment. Finally, about 1:30, we finish the ward rounds, and then we go and do the minor surgery cases. Drain abscesses, set bones, do a DNC for somebody having a miscarriage. Go there, read the x-rays. Finally, 1:30, 2 o'clock, get up to the clinic, crank through about 50, 60 patients in clinic. Then I go back to my office. I'll do correspondence, answer emails, limp back home, have supper with my wife and kids, and then I'm on call at night. And then I have a little walkie-talkie. They'll call me from the hospital if there's an issue or any problem at night that needs a surgical care or obstetrical care that they can't handle. They'll call me and I'll go in and take care of that. And next day, get up. It's Groundhog Day, right? So I can tell who's my age here who's laughing. I see that. I was like, Groundhog Day, what's he talking about? Bill Murray, remember that funny?
Yeah,
It was funny. You guys, yeah, I see you're right. Thank you for remembering that. Yeah, Larry Bird, right? Who's there today? These guys didn't know who Larry Bird was. Can you imagine that? Larry Bird, even Magic Johnson. I was shocked. I'm still shocked. All right, you stand up. Who was there today? Identify yourselves. Yes, you were there. Larry Bird. Sorry.
Uh, so, with this really grueling everyday schedule, how do you avoid burnout? We hear all the time about burnout of physicians here in the United States who probably don't have the same existence you have in terms of the daily grind. Have you ever experienced burnout or thought about burnout, or are you too busy for burnout? Like, how do you navigate that? Or maybe it's not burnout, maybe it's right, it's a question of faith, a moment of real struggle. Is this the right thing for me to be doing
Yeah.
here now?
Yeah, good question. I mean, never a question if this is the right place. I mean, I think the one thing I can say is, the 30, 40 worst days of my life have all been there in Nuba Mountains. Tragedies, awful days, incredible fear. The worst days have been there. There's not any one time I felt I want to be anywhere else in the world but here. So that's kind of the underlying feeling I have. Actually, the issue about burnout, I heard a great lecture from Far Curlin, who's my connection to Suzanne and this institute. So Far gave a lecture, it's just years ago, maybe 6 years ago. It was at a Catholic Medical Association conference, and he's talking about burnout. That's kind of one of his areas. Far as a medical doctor, works at Duke, and he said the two reasons that doctors fall into burnout is one, their practice is not varied, so kind of doing the same thing every day. So no variety in their practice, and you can probably extrapolate this to other jobs, right? Second thing is they kind of come out of medical school and out of residency with a lot of expectations, right? So expectations that they're gonna do a lot of work and make a huge impact, and when they get to their practice, their expectations, what their expectations were, what they're doing falls short of those expectations. So they haven't met the high expectations they had for themselves. They say, "I'm a doctor now. I can do all these great things," and they get out there and they're saddled with a lot of paperwork, a lot of insurance forms, and electronic medical records, and a lot of non-clinical work. And most doctors hate non-clinical work, right? Now you can back up what I'm saying. And every doctor I've had come to Nuba Mountains loves coming there. They say, this is the best thing ever. All I got to do is take care of sick people. Nobody's, bugging me with insurance forms, or, nobody's coming that wants to sue me. It's just pure medicine. So, I mean, those two things that Far brought up, we have in spades. Every day is a huge variety of cases, sometimes too much variety. And was the second thing. I mean, expectations. I never expected I had to do all these things. So I'm always at the limit of my knowledge, always having to study and learn more and keep current on things. It's a constant battle to keep up, which is tiresome and it's exhausting, but it doesn't lead to burnout.
I once saw an interview you did that compares happiness and joy.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about that distinction and the extent to which there is joy in your work despite its challenges.
Right. Yeah, I think we often put those together, right? Happiness and joy. Yeah, I'm joyful, I'm happy. It's always kind of the same thing. But happiness is an emotion, right? It kind of waxes and wanes. Whether it's sunny out today, I feel happy. I had a cheeseburger. I haven't had one in 10 years. I feel happy. And then you're sad because, it's raining out, or, you had a bad day and you're sad, or something bad happened, or you had a bad outcome with a patient. You feel sad. All those emotions are there. I'm happy today. I'm 5 minutes later, I'm sad because something bad happened. Joy is the feeling that you are where you're supposed to be. It's a feeling it doesn't change. It's not like this. It's like this, right? It's you get up in the morning saying, I am where I'm supposed to be. What I'm doing today has meaning. Joy is what I'm doing makes my life meaningful. I have a job which is fulfilling. And I think everybody, that's a tremendous human need. Is if you can have a job or have something which gives you meaning, you can get through anything. I think you've read Man's Search for Meaning. I think who's read that? Viktor Frankl. I mean, phenomenal book. So he was a guy. If you're not, you guys that don't know who Larry Bird was, he was he was a psychiatrist. Sorry, I'm making funny, but it is a lot of fun actually. Um, so he was a psychiatrist. He was from Austria, a Jewish guy, ends up in a concentration camp, and he survived. And it's like, what got you through all this? And he said he was able to find meaning in that concentration camp. He said, if you have anything that can give you meaning, you can make it through anything. And he talked about this thing. It's not the right term. I'm kind of paraphrasing. He kind of called it existential boredom. And it was kind of you guys know better than I do. We have philosophy people here. Like, oh, it's not like that. My take on it was, it's like, you know, it's like things that existential boredom. Like we find ourselves getting bored. Like I'm doing all this stuff. I'm not getting, I can't get any meaning out of it. Everything is kind of bland and cardboard and tasteless. Like the food in the Nuba Mountains, it's kind of it's just not fulfilling. And if you have that, life is a struggle, is joyless. If you have meaning, you can have joy. I think that's the distinction I try to draw. You philosophy guys can correct me on this, but
Right. Certainly, for students who are aspiring physicians, right, your life is extraordinarily inspiring. It also might be a little scary that students might aspire to live a life like you, but not feel able. What would you say to students who might want to follow in your footsteps?
well, I would say first pick your profession if it's medicine based on your love of medicine, not for any other reason. Certainly not for money. Certainly not for not even that you want to do mission work, but because you want to practice medicine. Whether it's here in South Bend, if it's in any place in the U.S., any place overseas, make sure it comes from a love of sciences, a love of people, love of working with people. Second is pick your specialty based on what you like. So when you're going through and you're going through training and you do your peds rotation, you say, okay, I should do pediatrics because I love kids. And you get to pediatrics, you don't like it. Don't go to pediatrics. Pick something else. If you like orthopedics, and you think, well, orthopedics is not relevant in the third in developing countries, don't say this. I'm gonna do orthopedics. I like orthopedics. I'll find something that fits what I love to do. The second thing would be stay close to your faith. Don't give up on it. That will get you through all the difficult times. Third thing would be if you say, okay, I'm ready, I want to take the leap, I want to do mission work, don't come to the mountains first. Go for what I call a soft landing. Go to Kenya, go to Uganda, go to a place that's not having civil war. We had a young lady come out. She was she was a missionary kid. She grew up in Peru. So I thought, man, she'll like be fine here. She came. She's German. She was in internal medicine. She was a resident, and she came and she was with me and she was doing fine. And then this was the last time I counted. This was 3.5 years ago, and I had to come out a few days before I was supposed to come out. So and the guys that were covering for me hadn't come yet. So I was going to leave her it was going to be like 16 hours when she'd be by herself at the hospital. And I saw all the blood just drain out of her face. And she completely freaked out. She panicked at the thought that she'd be left alone there. And I said, what? She's like, what if somebody's a C-section? And I said, well, just kind of fake it till you make it, you'll get through it. And she really panicked. Anyway, she's like, I have to get out of here. And she's like, I said, what's the problem? She goes, it's everything. It's the heat. It's the culture. Blah, 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 blah. Say, okay, I said, we're gonna. So we had like almost like do a psych evacuation. I said, you're coming with me. So we got her out. So it's not, I think she would have been better if she went somewhere else first and then kind of got acclimated, picked up a few things that might be useful for Nuba Mountains, and then kind of later came to Nuba. So soft landing first, then kind of build up, go with kind of regular army first, and then maybe special forces after some initial training, and then you're ready.
Great. Before we open it up, just one final question in honor of your former teammate. Is there something in particular you learned as a football player that's been important to your work moving forward? So we're doing Catholic and football
I love
in
it.
honor of Notre
Yeah.
Dame.
Football is great. Sports are great. So any people playing sports, it's a wonderful preparation for anything you do in life. Think how many things you learn from playing a sport, especially football, right? Perseverance, persistence, playing when you're hurt, playing when you're totally exhausted and wiped out, pulling together as a team when you're, pissed off with your teammates. There's so many life lessons you can learn that translate, especially to what I'm doing now. I mean, it's you've been up the whole day operating. A bunch of wounded come in at night, you're up the whole night operating. You think back, okay, I remember, people might think, oh, that's kind of silly. It's all, games that big boys play. No, it's not. When you're playing, you're pretty serious about it. And it's hard. I've drawn on that. I can't tell you how many times I've drawn those experiences at 3 in the morning when I'm totally exhausted. I'm like, I cannot continue with these cases. I'm wiped out. Saying, come on, man. It's the fourth quarter, right? Remember fourth quarter drills, Chuck? So Chuck, Coach Church. So Coach Church was our defensive coordinator, and he said, "Katina, you're the middle." I was a defensive lineman. That was like 80 pounds ago. He's like, "Katina, you're the middle guard. That's the position for the village idiot." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm the village idiot." So a lot of what we do is put your head down and push ahead. It's not the smartest guy. It's not the best looking guy. It's the guy that can put his head down and plow through it. This is the guy you want. And this will get you through a lot of really terrible days. Football is great, but any sport, especially team sports, I think are hugely, hugely beneficial to whatever job you do.
Great. So I want to actually open it up for questions so we have a good amount of time. So I hope folks have been thinking about possible questions. Catholic football, doctoring. Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for your talk. I was really inspired by your words and your experiences. I feel like no one can amount to how much work and dedication you've put in Africa. My question for you is whether in college or whether in medical school or whether in the work you do now, what has been the biggest challenge you faced in everything you've done?
Boy. I mean, I guess, I guess the work we do now, the biggest challenge we face is logistical challenges. That's kind of a fairly boring answer to your question, but we are the end of the world. So Google, you guys go home, Google end of the world, and Nuba Mountains will come up on your Google thing. It is the end of the world, and it is really really difficult to get anything there. Someone was asking me on this tour, how can I mail something to you? And I really chuckled. Yeah, there's no mail service there, nor phone service. So like for supplies to get to us, we've got to buy everything in Kenya or in Juba in South Sudan. These are another two or three. This is Kenya's 2 countries away. Juba's another country away. And we go through African Mission Healthcare. They've got an office in Nairobi. We send the orders to them. We've got to order everything for a year, what we think we need for a full year. They do the procurement. They put it on trucks. They send it up to us. Okay. It takes months to get this stuff sent up. If we forget something on that order, it might be 6, 7 months before we get it. So you really got to think ahead. And so for the things that travel, I'll give you an example. We a few years ago, so that truck's got to go all the way through South Sudan. South Sudan's got tremendous problems. They've had civil war. That road through there is passable for only a couple months out of the year. The rest of the year, it's swamp. You can't get through there. The road is very dangerous. This year, May of 2024, one guy he finally delivers all of our supplies. We've been waiting for 8 months for him. He comes up. I said, "Thank God you're here." Guy from Somalia. He's got a hole in his windshield. He was like, "Hey, where'd that hole come from? Did a rock come up and hit the windshield?" He's like, "No, I was driving up and I had an armed escort. It was a South Sudan soldier riding next to me. He was armed with a Kalashnikov, and some bandits came and shot through the windshield and shot the guy dead." We were like, just wanted like to have a fun conversation with the guy. He's telling us what this guy shot dead next to him. Guy's shot dead. So the bandits come, stop his vehicle. They come up to him, they grab him, pull him out of the vehicle, and they're going to kill him. He talks his way out of it. They rob him, put him back in the vehicle, and he comes up and carries on with the work and delivers the stuff to us. So that's what we have to go through. That's what this guy had to go through, deliver this, Tylenol to the hospital. So logistics is very complicated. A few years ago, that road never opened. So how do you get items from Miami to Notre Dame, and there's a big swamp between the two, and you can't pass it. You can fly an airplane, not into here, but close by, close enough. But that's really really expensive. So we ended up sending these goods up the Nile River, down a tributary to an area which bypassed that huge swamp, and we were able to get them onto a truck and get them up to us. So logistics is very, very complicated. As a short answer to your question.
Great. We have a question here.
Man, I didn't hear what you said. Anybody hear that?
Hello, can you hear me now? Okay, my name is Zin, and I am from Myanmar, and my country is going through a civil war right now, and I feel like the war has forgotten about us. So my question to you is, and how are the Sudanese people coping amid protracted conflicts, and is there any remarkable strand of character that you notice in them?
So how do we?
How are the Sudanese people like coping amid
Okay.
these protracted conflicts? And is there any remarkable strand of character that you notice in them?
Any remarkable story of courage?
Yes.
Okay, great. You're from Myanmar. Very good. Yeah, welcome. So probably as the Burmese, the people in Nuba Mountains are incredibly resilient. This is the Anybody that's come in contact with Nuba say this is the characteristic of Nuba people. They are tough as nails. Tough as nails. I don't know, Scott, which I got a bunch of stories to pick from to give you examples. And they put up with more trauma and difficulties than I'll ever go through. As I said, my wife grew up there, and she watched kids die of starvation when she was growing up. She was uh, she was booked for marriage when she was 11 years old. Her parents were going to marry her off when she was 11, and they said, "No, I want you waiting." Some guy came to the he was a military commander, came to the house, said, "Hey, I want to marry your daughter," and like, "Hey, she's 11. Why don't you wait a couple years?" Okay, so the guy goes off and gets killed in battle. So this was my wife's upbringing. There was a guy who was he was a Nuba soldier, and he was in a battle, and it's about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sleeping, and the staff come to me and wake me up and say, "Hey, doctor, you got to go and see these wounded soldiers. They've come in." So I go down there. All these they're called technicals. They're the pickup trucks with a big 50 caliber machine gun in the back. They pull up into the hospital. So I go I go in there, and they're just stacked people everywhere in the corridor. And one guy's hanging out there with a anti-tank RPG through his arm. So it's about this long. An RPG is a rocket-propelled grenade, and it's used to take out a tank, and it's in this guy's arm. And he's like hanging out. He's not saying anything. He's not saying, "Hey man, could you like move me up to the front of the line?" He's just kind of hanging there. So we get him, and it's stuck through there, and it's got kind of big things at both ends of it, almost like barbells. One's a big flange, other side's got a big propeller on it. So I'm like, how do I get this thing out? So, and I was worried it was armed. Like maybe this thing is still armed, and this thing's gonna blow up and kill everybody. So I asked one of the soldiers there. He says, "No, don't worry about it. It's not armed." He was totally the guy was totally drunk, so it didn't really inspire a lot of confidence. But I thought, okay, there's nothing else I can do. So we sent one of our nurses who became my wife after many years. We sent her out to the village to get our maintenance guy. I said, go out and find, his name is Yunnan. Find Yunnan, have him come back, have him bring the saw with him. Comes back with a saw, and he saws off one end of that RPG. And like, I was worried, is he gonna saw through it and trigger some thing that's gonna explode, Thinking all those cheesy movies, is it the red wire, the green wire? I'm like, okay. So he saws it off, we all hold our breath, nothing happens. I grab it and pull it out, and it comes out. He's got a big gaping hole up here. He didn't cry out. He didn't make a peep. Stuffed it with gauze, sent it to the ward because he had a lot of other patients we had to get through. Next day, get up, the guy's there in the ward. Hey, I've changed this guy's dressing. Next, he's doing fine. A week later, he takes off. He goes home. This other guy, one guy, Aboud. You haven't heard this story yet. So Aboud is a legend. Aboud is a cat's got 9 lives. This dude's got like 20. This guy came in. One time he came in, he was shot through the arm. He broke his collarbone and broke his scapula. Massive wound, but clean. It goes back to battle. 2 months later, he comes back, and I see a guy lying on the stretcher. I didn't recognize him. And the other soldiers were there, like, hey, this is Aboud, because he was kind of a big commander. And Aboud had a bullet hole through his skull, in here, out here. Okay, maybe Donnie's seen these. I don't know what, like in South. And I'm not kidding you. He had the bullet was in the temple, right here, in here, out here, a big hole here, a big hole here. He's unconscious. His eyes are. He was like just staring like this. He's breathing. I said, guys, he's not going to survive this. This thing just is trashed his brain. We don't have a head CT. We have no way to figure out how much damage has been. I said, let's just cover it. And he's not going to survive until tomorrow. So next day, he's still alive. You see the guy's still breathing. The next day he starts talking. He survives. So Aboud, what are you doing, man? You're supposed to be dead. He's like, whatever, I'm still alive. He looks off. Like 6, 8 months, maybe a year later, they come in, another big battle, another bunch of wounded come, and there's a guy who's hit in the leg with, I don't know, it was a artillery shell. His leg is shattered, right? His femur, thigh bone, shattered. Muscle is just ripped to shreds. Look at it, it's freaking Aboud. I said, Aboud, what are you doing? Yeah, this artillery shell ran into me, blah, blah. So I said, okay, we're probably going to amputate the leg. He's like, no, don't touch my legs. Okay, we'll put you in traction. We put Aboud in traction, which is like this really primitive way of handling it. You put a pin through the tibia, and you put what's called a stirrup. It looks like a stirrup from a cowboy stirrup, and you tie a rope, and you hang it off the edge of the bed, and we get like a sheet, and you put stones. So we go outside, collect stones, put it in that thing, tie it up, and hang it off the edge of the bed. And by that traction, it pulls the bone into alignment. And we stuck Aboud in traction, cleaned the wound up, patched it up. Aboud walked out of that hospital. And I saw him like months later, he didn't have a limb. I said, boom, man, what is your secret? I mean, the story is that I heard about him. He didn't tell me this, but his father was also a military guy. And he said, if you're ever in battle, if I ever see a bullet hole in your back, you better not come home because I'll kill you myself. Meaning like that would be cowardice, right? Like he was shot in the back. So this was the environment that Aboud grew up in. You talk about tough. And imagine this guy. He's the guy you want on your side if you have a choice. He's like, you pick him on your team if you're playing football or something.
Great. Another question?
Hello. Hi, Dr. Catena.
Hi.
It's so great to meet you. I hope you get to get your cheeseburger today or something. My question was, we hear a lot about, people who want to become physicians and the struggle sometimes it is to balance family life, like a personal family life, and still having like that gruesome, not a 9 to 5, just day in, day out, every day. How has that looked like for you, and what advice would you give to students who are hoping to do the medical field, hoping to be surgeons, but are worried about those things you hear that you can't have both?
Right. Yeah, good question. So, I mean, the idea involves work-life balance, right? And I mean, for sure, I have not had that. I can't come to you and say, oh, yeah, it's great. I get home by 3 o'clock and I'm out with my kids playing golf. No, it's impossible right now. I mean, I've gotten better and I've got no commute, which saves the time there. But it's extremely difficult. If you're gonna take on this profession, it's very difficult. You got to figure out ways to kind of get through that and find time. I think medicine has gotten much better over the years. The old days of the lone surgeon carrying on and always be on call. I think I think it's gotten better. I would suggest. I married late in life, and my kids are still small. I tell my wife, I said, in Nuba Mountains, no one's got work-life balance. Most of the families, the husband's a polygamist. He's got a couple wives, and he's gone. He's a soldier. He's in the front lines, 11 months out of the year. He shows up during rainy season, does some farming, and then takes off again. So they're just not around that much. A lot of places in Africa, men have to leave to find work. It's a very common theme. It's awful for the family life. I tell my wife, at least I'm home every night. I'm here. I'm not taking off. I'm not separated from now, but I'm every night. On the weekends, for the most part, I'm there. I'm back and forth a lot. I would suggest that you find a way to make that more a part of your life. There is a lot more to life besides medicine. It's just I kind of, I was already there, and things were as they are, and you can't change it. Yeah, it was funny when I go around. Not, I was some years ago. There's all these guys will bring up this talk about self care, and that was like a new word for me. Like self care, what are you talking about? It's like I'm like Rip Van Winkle, right? I go out in the bush for these years, then I come back and everything has changed. Self care. I was like the new thing. Like what's self care? And they explained to me. I'm like, well, I don't do much for self care. So I'm not a great example of work life balance. I'm not, but I would suggest try to find that in whatever way you can. I think it is very important. Certainly, doing things outside of work, outside of medicine, are very important. One thing that's been a huge help to me is having my wife there. And when I get home, she's like, because at first, sometimes I would come home, I'd be just in a bad mood, and she's like, "Hey, man, I'm home. Don't bring that stuff home with you. You're home now. You have a responsibility to be, present to me as my husband and present to the kids." And it was great. It kind of shook me up. I'm like, yeah, you're right. So that's been a huge help. Just having a good spouse who's supportive but at the same time says, "Look, man, you gotta shape up a bit." I think is really helpful.
Right. I think there was another question behind you, Jennifer. Is that, yeah, if you want to just, no? Okay.
Thank you for your witness, Dr. Katina. My question is basically just echoing what was mentioned in the video from a man who said, "What happens after Dr. Katina?"
Yeah, good question. So, we're a Catholic mission hospital, and mission hospitals in general have been around for 2,000 years, right? St. Basil was started the first hospital, 300 some AD. And I see these guys today, who's heard about Doctors Without Borders? I'm like, oh, negative, Scott, don't worry. Everybody. They've been around for how long? Like 50 years, right? So we have been doing this stuff for 2,000 years, okay? Been around a bit longer. The idea, and why they've stuck around, Christian health training institutions always are involved with training. So from the very beginning, I'll give you an example. We started the hospital, we had 20 some staff. We had 8 expatriates from Kenya and Uganda. We had 15 local staff from the Nuba Mountains. The Nuba staff with the highest education level had finished 8th grade. Okay. Not a single high school graduate in the entire region that was controlled by the SPLA. This is a place the size of Austria, a place the size of Georgia. Not one high school graduate. So the following year, once we started getting a couple high school graduates coming, we started sending people out for training. We sent them to Kenya, to Uganda, South Sudan, Tanzania. We've sent out 90 people over these 17 years. 3.5 years ago, we started a training school to train physician assistants and midwives. We just graduated the first cohort of PAs, 19, just graduated in June. They're now doing internship with us. Midwives will graduate 29 in July. That will, I think, quadruple the workforce of midwives in the Nuba Mountains. We got 3 Nuba medical doctors that are doing their internship with, one doing internship, 2 that are post-internship, that are just learning extra skills with us. We want to develop these guys, get them sent out for specialty training, train as a surgeon, whatever, gynecologist, pediatrician. So that succession plan has been 17 years in the making. We just started at 0, and now we're slowly getting to the point where I can step away and these guys can do the day-to-day operations.
Great. I think we'll have one final question. There, did you want to ask a question?
It was my question and all that. Does it have to be a doctor? Someone who's been working medical field for years and years and assisted.
Right. They can. Very good. So good question. The question is, do you have to have a doctor do it? And the answer is no. And I mean, in Africa, there's for years and years and years, there were not anywhere near enough medical doctors for the population. So the idea was, how do you train people that have maybe a bit fewer skills, but doesn't take forever to train them? So okay, let's train clinical officers, which are like PAs, kind of the same thing in the U.S. So the clinical officer training has been going on for a long time, and we're training clinical officers. So to give you an example, we have a guy who he's kind of an interesting story. He grew up in Khartoum. He's a Nuba. He grew up in the north in Khartoum, and he finished high school. There are no opportunities for him in Khartoum, right? The Nuba are second class citizens in the north. Nothing for him to do. He hatched a plan with a friend of his from Darfur. They saved a bit of money. They did some odd jobs. They were going to trek across the desert, Sahara Desert, across the Libyan desert to the Mediterranean, Tripoli, get on one of these rickety boats, go across the Med to, say, Lampedusa or Sicily, go across and go into Europe, right? They're going to go up and be all these refugees you see in Lampedusa and Sicily, and they're going to go to Europe and do something there. You see all these guys are just in these camps in Calais in France doing nothing around that that people don't want them there. It's really a terrible situation for everybody. So before he started this journey, he told his friend, he said, I want to go back to the Nuba Mountains to say hi to my uncle. I haven't seen him in many years. Let me go there, say hi to him, then I'll come back and we'll take off. Comes to Nuba Mountains, and civil war starts in Nuba, 2011. He's trapped. He can't go back to Khartoum. His Darfuri friend takes off, ends up, I think, in Spain. He's living in a tent in Spain or something. So our guy ends up in Nuba. We hire him. He finished high school. He's like, hey, you finished high school. Come work with us. We train him on the job. He's one of my surgical assistants. He's working with me. I say this guy's pretty good. We sent him to school. In those days, we didn't have our own school. We sent him outside to school to be clinical officer. He ends up at a school in South Sudan. South Sudan starts a civil war. The school he's at, rebels come to his school, shoot up his classroom, kill 3 of his classmates. They were going to kill one of the other Nuba we sent there. They point a gun at him and say, hey, we're going to kill you. And he says, why are you going to kill me? And they say, aren't you a Dinka? I said, no, I'm not a Dinka. They let him go. He survived. So these guys escaped from that school with the clothes on their back, end up in Uganda. Ugandans took them in. They finished their clinical officer training in Uganda, comes back to Nuba. We're training him as an intern. We say, hey, we need a guy that can do eye surgery. We send him to Tanzania. Does a 2-year course in eye surgery in Tanzania. Now he is the eye surgeon for all of Nuba, and now for most of Sudan, because the health infrastructure in Sudan has been trashed by the civil war. So this is a guy who would have been in some refugee camp in Spain or Calais, France, under a tarp. Now he's like the eye doctor as a clinical officer. Our nurses, the guy that finished 8th grade I told you about, he's our best anesthetist. He does all of our anesthesia. He puts a kid that weighs 3 pounds, newborn baby, premature baby, he puts that baby to sleep. Midwives are doing vacuum deliveries, things that doctors do here. This is normal for us. So that's, very much. We train, we actually got to pick out people that are appropriate, but you get them trained up, they can do a lot of this stuff.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, Chuck.
please.
So, Tom, the other night I was watching you spoke about Western civilization, the technology of Western civilization, and not having that technology in Sudan, and that Sudan has enchantment. There's an enchantment to potentially not having the type of technology that we have in the United States. And I found as an attorney that once COVID hit, a lot of things in the court systems have changed drastically and have not gone back to. They've never gone back to what has was the way of doing things prior to COVID. They've they've kept Zoom, witnesses coming on by Zoom, attorneys talking to each other by Zoom, and things like that, and you miss the human connection. And I'm wondering how you can compare, or if you can, the differences that you see between the United States and Sudan, between the differences in technology, and what's really a better. I don't. It's a really difficult question
Right.
to answer, but are we missing something as in the Western civilization by having too much, like getting into artificial intelligence, things like that? I mean, there's wonderful benefits to it, but it's also people just looking at their phones and Instagram and TikTok and not communicating with other human beings.
Yeah, that's a good question, Chuck. I mean, to answer your question, yes, we are missing something. I mean, you're talking to a major Luddite, right? But all this technology is great, right? You can't say, well, technology is bad, we should abandon it. We're too far gone for that. But the problem, look at health problems. I don't see patients with depression or anxiety. I just don't see it. Despite all the problems there, it's not something I see. And when I came back, it first hit me some years ago. I'm like, man, what is going on? It's not like a judgment. It's not saying, well, I know they're suffering, but what's causing all this? I feel bad about it. Like people in my own family, right? It's not like some esoteric thing. It's everybody. It's our friends. It's our family members. Like, I don't want that for anybody. And a lot of it is just a sense of community, a sense of we need each other. We're social animals as human beings. You cannot we cannot become atomized like we are. And all this stuff, you keep separating people out from each other. It's going to get worse and worse. We need connection. The Nuba Mountains, the Nuba people are a traditional society. They're very communal. It drives my wife crazy because she doesn't know the alternative. Because people just show up at any old time. We had one guy show up at 6 in the morning, Sunday morning. He's like, "Hey, you wanted like a tarp?" He's like, "We're still in bed, like 6 on a Sunday morning." So one morning I could sleep into like 6:30. "Hey, you guys got a tarp?" I'm like, his name is Abu Gadr. I said, "What are you doing here, man?" It's 6. But for him, that was totally fine. But in a way, it's good. It's like he feels like close enough human connection. He can just kind of drop by at 6 in the morning and say, "Hey, we have people stopping by all the time. They show up and they expect that you're going to go and have tea with them. And it's not like quick, quick, get out of here. Like nobody calls ahead of time because there's no phones. Like you can't. There's no phone service. They don't send a message. They just show up. And yeah, people sometimes people do complain, but it's like we're on the other extreme. And I think is that that's and this is not. I think this is not rocket science. I think you all can agree. All this atomization has a price. Technology comes with a price. It separates us. We need each other. And this is a big part of the loss of meaning. Human connections give you meaning. I mean, my God, I think about how you feel when you've seen somebody. Like I haven't seen you in how many years, Chuck? Yeah, 40 years. It's a connection. And man, you lose that and you lose a lot. You know, we have the luxury of not having technology. And we have good internet now. I'm like, well, it's kind of a mixed blessing. I remember before the Civil War started, 2011, the cell phone service started getting closer to us. There were some cell phone towers in Nuba, and you had to take quite a bit of a hike to access cell phone service. It never reached the hospital, and the war started. I'm honest with you, I was happy. I'm like, I'm good. I'm glad. I don't want somebody like I'm a patient I'm seeing, and the phone goes off, and you're chatting with somebody. Like I don't want that. I want to be present with this. I want them to be present to me. Like we're just here. At home at night. I don't want the phone ringing. Nobody can call us. We're at home. Nobody can call us. Like, hey, phone's turned off. It's great. And that connection, this idea about enchantment, and that gets into kind of the spirit world, the spirit realm, not kind of in a weird way, but I mean, Christianity, we're well aware of there's a spirit world. Good evil spirits, there are good spirits. I mean, all this stuff is not good and evil spirits, but evil spirits are certainly there. We believe in angels and guardian angels, and that there's good in the world and good forces. I think this is very very standard Catholicism. Um, I think we've lost that. We lost our connection with that world. We're very, you know, we're very concrete in our thinking, and technology will solve our problems. It won't. The human brain is very complicated. We as human beings are very complicated. Technology cannot solve that problem. A robotic girlfriend is not the same. I'm sorry. I'm saying that. It's true, isn't it? Like that really makes me feel sad. Like you are so dying for human connection that you have a robot. Like you're programmed to tell you what you want. I mean, it's sad. It really is. It's terribly sad. And I think we have a lot to learn. I mean, how do you put the genie back in the bottle? Is a question. And AI. I mean, there's a lot of questions like how are be careful once that thing is out there, and it keeps progressing. And like a lot of guys, that warning has been there for many years. People warning about it, and people are still worrying about, hey, but the genie keeps getting out of the bottle. Now it's just kind of, I think the leg is in the bottle still, but every day the genie gets a little bit further out of the bottle, and I'm concerned. It's got great uses and it's got so many good things. Like the internet's great, but it's got porn, it's got awful things on it too. And how do you control that? And we're complicated beings, and we need connection to people.
Great. And with that, I just want to thank Dr. Catena for joining us today.